The Queensland Floods Inquiry has been told normal rules don't apply for insurance companies during times of major disasters. The inquiry has begun its second round of public hearings, focusing on insurance and land use.
The time frame is tight and the work ahead is enormous as the Commission moves on to the contentious issue of insurance.
In the aftermath of the floods, insurance claims were made in unprecedented numbers. For many of those who made claims, the experience was a distressing one.
The inquiry is looking at the behaviour of insurers, but Senior Counsel Assisting Peter Callaghan says in times of major disaster, the industry's code of conduct doesn't apply. 80% of Queensland towns are built on floodplains, and 2.5 million people were affected last summer. It's put the spotlight on developments, including the flooding of mines and their potential environmental impacts.
Drinking water and other aspects of the environment as far afield as the Great Barrier Reef.
Questions have also been raised about suburban developments.
We are aware that there were, in Brisbane and elsewhere, conspicuous cases in which the effects of flooding were so profound that they called into question the purpose for which certain land was being used.
State Government planner Gary White was quizzed why Brisbane's multi-million-dollar Riverwalk, which floated away in the floods, was never assessed by a third party. Mr White says there was no need. The inquiry's also heard flood planning by councils across Queensland is plagued by inconsistencies.
Many planning schemes are based on the so-called 1 in 100 year flood event, but the inquiry's heard this term is misleading and may need to be abandoned because major floods happen far more regularly.
Anthony Leighton's home at Bellbowrie in Brisbane's west was built along the Q100 floodline. He and his family had to be rescued by boat.
It's very confusing. If the Q100 doesn't mean a 1 in 100 year flood event to a layman, in my opinion, it means nothing.
Mr Leighton says he raised concerns with the Brisbane City Council about planned development in his area, but was met with a stonewall of silence. Francene, Norton, ABC News, Brisbane.
And Francene Norton joins us now from outside the inquiry. Francene, the inquiry is getting down to the technical nitty-gritty. Why is it focusing so much on flood predictions?
Well, David, the Commission is concerned that with terms like a Q100 flood event, too many residents are taking this literally to mean once in a century, when in fact the probability is more like twice in a lifetime. Brendan Nelson from the Queensland Reconstruction Authority gave evidence this afternoon, and he said that a lot of councils across Queensland rely on this terminology in their planning processes. He also told the inquiry that most councils across the state don't even include flood mapping, and a lot of rivers and water basins defy local government boundaries, so a more consistent approach is needed in planning.
Okay, and Francene, who's the inquiry expected to hear from tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow the spotlight is put on Brisbane and development here in the state capital. There is going to be a particular focus on Brisbane's ferry terminals, many of which were damaged beyond repair or washed away back in January. And we're also expected to hear more personal stories, including that from a Brisbane business owner whose shop in Rosalie was flooded back in January. But David, it wasn't from the Brisbane River breaking its banks, it was from the water rising up through the drainage systems.